If you are waiting for the perfect moment to change your life, I want you to listen very carefully to this conversation. Because what you are waiting for might never come. Hey lovely listeners, welcome back to Fluent Career English. I'm Emma, and today we are talking about something that quietly stops more people than failure ever does.
And that is waiting.
Exactly. Waiting for the right time. Waiting to feel ready. Waiting for confidence.
And while people are waiting, life keeps moving forward.
That's the part most people don't realize. Time does not pause while you prepare.
It keeps going.
Let me ask you something. Have you ever told yourself, I'll start when I feel ready?
I think almost everyone has said that at some point.
And what usually happens after that?
Nothing changes.
Exactly.
Because feeling ready is not how growth works.
Yes, and this is something I learned the hard way.
Tell us about that.
There was a time when I wanted to take on a bigger role at work. I knew I had the ability.
But something stopped you.
Yes. I kept thinking, I need more experience first. I need to improve a little more.
That sounds logical.
It does, but it was actually fear in disguise.
That's interesting.
Yes, because I was not really preparing. I was avoiding.
That's a powerful realization.
Months passed. And I noticed something uncomfortable.
What was it?
People around me were growing faster than I was.
Even people with similar skills.
Exactly. And I realized something very important.
What did you realize?
They were not more ready than me. They were just more willing to act.
That's a big shift.
Yes, and it changed how I saw everything.
So what did you do next?
I stopped waiting. Not completely, but I started taking small actions.
Like what?
Speaking more in meetings. Volunteering for small responsibilities.
Even if you didn't feel fully prepared.
Especially then.
That's where growth happens.
Exactly. Let me ask you something, Alex. Have you ever delayed something important because you didn't feel ready?
Many times. I remember a very specific situation during my early career.
What happened?
I was given an opportunity to lead a small project.
That sounds like a great opportunity.
It was. But my first reaction was hesitation.
Why?
Because I thought, what if I fail? What if I make mistakes?
That's a very common fear.
Yes, and I almost said no.
Almost?
Yes, and something interesting happened.
What?
A colleague of mine accepted a similar opportunity.
And?
He was not more experienced than me.
That must have been surprising.
It was. But he was willing to try.
And that made you think.
Exactly. I realized something very simple.
What was it?
Waiting was not protecting me. It was limiting me.
That's powerful.
So I accepted the opportunity.
Even with fear?
Yes. And I made mistakes.
Of course.
But I also learned faster than ever before.
That's the reward of action.
Exactly.
Let's talk about college for a moment.
That's where many people develop this habit of waiting.
Yes, I remember something from my university days.
What happened?
There was a presentation in one of my classes. I prepared everything perfectly.
So you felt confident?
Not really. I kept thinking, what if I forget something?
That feeling is very common.
When it was my turn, I almost wished I could skip it.
But you didn't.
No, I did it anyway. And something surprising happened.
What?
It wasn't perfect. But it was good enough.
And how did you feel after?
Proud. Not because I was perfect, but because I didn't avoid it.
That's an important difference.
Yes, and that moment taught me something.
What did it teach you?
You don't need to feel ready to take action.
You become ready by taking action.
Exactly. Let me ask you something. Why do you think people wait so much?
Because waiting feels safe.
Even though it's not helping them grow.
Yes, because it avoids risk.
But it also avoids progress.
That's the trade-off.
I want to say something clearly. Waiting is not a neutral decision.
It's an active choice.
A choice to stay the same.
And that's what makes it dangerous.
Let's talk about failure.
That's where most fear comes from.
Yes, people don't act because they want to avoid failure.
But failure is part of growth.
Let me share a personal failure.
Go ahead.
I once applied for an opportunity one really wanted.
And
I was rejected.
that must have been disappointing.
It was. I started questioning myself.
That's natural.
But after some time, I realized something important.
What was it?
I learned more from that rejection than I would have from success.
That's a powerful mindset.
Yes, because it showed me what I needed to improve.
And you used that feedback.
Exactly. And the next time, I was better prepared.
That's how progress happens.
Through action, feedback, and adjustment.
Not through waiting.
Exactly. I want our listeners to imagine something.
Go ahead.
Imagine your life 1 year from now. You kept waiting.
That's not a great feeling.
Now imagine something different. You started today.
Even small steps.
Yes, especially small steps.
That version of you feels very different.
More confident. More experienced. More capable.
And the only difference is action.
Exactly. Let me ask you one important question, Alex. What is the biggest lesson you learned about waiting?
That waiting never makes you ready.
That's powerful.
Only action does.
And that's what people need to understand.
Yes, because once you understand that,
Everything changes.
you stop waiting.
And you start moving.
Even if it's slow.
It's still progress.
And progress builds confidence.
And confidence builds momentum.
And momentum changes your life.
If you are listening right now, this is your reminder.
You don't need a perfect moment.
You need a starting point.
And that starting point
Can be right now. And once you understand that, something inside you starts to shift. You stop looking for the perfect moment.
and you start creating your own moment.
Exactly. It's a subtle change, but it's powerful.
Because now, you're not waiting anymore.
You're moving.
Even if it's slow.
Even if it's uncomfortable.
And that's where real growth begins.
Let me ask you something, Alex. Do you think people realize how much time they lose by waiting?
Honestly, no. Most people underestimate it.
I agree. Because waiting doesn't feel like a decision.
But it is a decision.
Yes, it's a decision to delay your own progress.
And that delay adds up.
Days become weeks.
Weeks become months.
And suddenly, a year has passed.
And nothing really changed.
That realization can be painful.
But it can also wake you up.
Exactly. Let me share another story. This one is from someone I worked with a few years ago.
I'm listening.
Her name was Lisa. She was very talented, but she always doubted herself.
What kind of doubts?
She would say things like, "I'm not ready yet. I need more time."
That sounds familiar.
Yes, and she had many opportunities in front of her.
But she didn't take them.
Most of the time, no.
What changed for her?
One day, she saw someone else get promoted.
Someone less experienced.
Yes.
That must have been frustrating.
It was. And that moment became her turning point.
What did she realize?
She realized she had been waiting too long.
That's a tough realization.
Yes, but it pushed her to act.
What did she do differently?
She started saying yes to opportunities. Even when she felt unsure.
That takes courage.
It does. And slowly, her confidence improved.
Because confidence comes from experience.
Exactly. Let's talk about something important.
Go ahead.
The idea of perfect timing.
That's something people believe in a lot.
Yes, but the truth is,
Perfect timing doesn't exist.
exactly. There will always be uncertainty.
There will always be risk.
And there will always be reasons to wait.
If you keep looking for the perfect moment,
You will keep delaying your life.
that's a powerful statement.
Let me ask you something. What helped you become more comfortable with uncertainty?
Experience.
Can you explain that?
The more I took action, the more I realized something.
What?
Most of the things I feared never actually happened.
That's so true.
And even when things didn't go perfectly.
You still learned.
Exactly.
That's an important point. Failure is not the opposite of success.
It's part of the process.
Let me share another personal moment.
Go ahead.
There was a time when I had to lead a discussion in front of a group.
That can be stressful.
Very. I felt nervous before it started.
Did you think about avoiding it?
Yes, for a moment. I thought, maybe I'm not ready.
And what did you do?
I reminded myself of something simple.
What was that?
If I wait until I feel ready, I might never do it.
That's powerful.
So I did it anyway.
And how did it go?
Not perfect. But good enough.
And that was enough.
Yes, and after that, I felt stronger.
Because you proved something to yourself.
Exactly. I want to ask you something, Alex. What do you think people need to hear the most right now?
That they don't need to wait anymore.
That's simple, but powerful.
Yes, because many people are just waiting.
Waiting for confidence.
Waiting for clarity.
Waiting for permission.
But no one is coming to give that permission.
You have to give it to yourself.
Exactly.
Let's talk about action again.
Because that's where everything changes.
What is one simple action someone can take today?
Do something you've been avoiding.
That's a good one.
It doesn't have to be big.
Just something meaningful.
Yes, something that moves you forward.
I like that. One small step forward is better than waiting.
Always.
Let's imagine something together.
Go ahead.
Imagine two versions of yourself.
Interesting.
One version keeps waiting.
And the other takes small actions every day.
After 6 months, how different are they?
Very different.
One feels stuck.
The other feels progress.
One feels frustrated.
The other feels confident.
And the only difference.
Is action.
Exactly. Let me ask you one final question, Alex. What is one message you want every listener to remember from this conversation?
You don't need to feel ready.
That's powerful.
You need to be willing.
Willing to try.
Willing to fail.
Willing to grow.
And once you are willing,
Everything begins to change.
if you are listening right now, This is your moment.
Not a perfect moment.
But a real one.
A moment where you decide to stop waiting.
And start acting.
Even if it feels uncomfortable.
Especially then.
Because that's where growth begins.
So take one step today.
Just one.
And then take another tomorrow.
And keep going.
Because your life will not change by waiting.
It will change by what you choose to do next.
So choose action.
Choose growth.
Choose yourself.
And maybe today
Is the day everything starts to change.